in game 2. And Jimmy Butler was very blunt in his assessment of his team's performance.
I mean, yeah, you do got to move on. I don't like to move on from this because it has to hurt. They tried to embarrass us. They did embarrass us. So I think we got to realize that. Use it as fuel, whatever you want to say, but realize that the game can get out of hand whenever you're playing against a really good team like them that can score the ball and get stops. So overall, we just have to be better.
PJ Tucker left the game with a knee contusion, and he will undergo an MRI today. Obviously, the game was out of hand far before he got injured, but that will be a huge factor if he is not able to play. Jimmy Butler did have 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. No other Miami players scored more than 14 points. But the story of this game, as Jimmy mentioned, the Celtics are not just a team that is able to shoot. They play good defense. So they're not just an offensive machine. Perhaps the Heat could have climbed back into it if that's how the Celtics were arranged, but they aren't. They can get stops on the defensive side of the ball as well as shoot. And the Heat were 10 of 34 from 3. Tyler Hero was 0 for 3 and Duncan Robinson, who is supposed to be the three-point specialist, was 0 for 4.
They pay him a lot of money, and he's not playing all that much consistently.
Yeah, it's been rough for Duncan because they really needed him. They really needed him to come in and knock down some shots, and he hasn't been able to do it, and he can't be on the floor a lot because he's a defensive liability.
So's Hero, isn't he?
But Hero's 6th man of the year. Yeah. So Hero's not the best defensive player. He's better than Duncan. But Hero won 6th man of the year for a reason. He can distribute. They called a foul on it, but he had a big time block last night. He's able to get back and make some plays. But you can't do that. You can't go 10 for 34 from 3 and expect to stay in a game with the Celtics, who went on a 17-0 run in the first quarter. You got to get a stop and knock down some shots, or the game's going to get away from you. I don't think the series is over yet, but someone other than Jimmy is going to have to step up. Maybe Bam. Maybe it's time for Bam to get some points.
Yeah.
It would be really nice. So Luka Doncic had his worst game of the postseason against the Warriors in Game 1, but he's still one of the best players in the league right now and is hoping to get back in Game 2 tonight. And during an appearance on the Rich Eisen show, John Sally compared Luka and his talent to one of the all-time greats.
I would be afraid to play against Luka. I'm telling you personally, that's how good he is. And I know Larry Bird would put fear in me and everyone else, just like Luka does.
I think there's obvious comparisons between Larry Bird and Luka. I think
there's something there.
The speed is one of the things that I think you initially see. Luka's not a particularly fast player.
Kind of plodding at times, yeah.
Yes, but it just doesn't matter because no one can speed him up. And I think part of that is Luka's body composition is that he's going to not be moved. He's not a guy you're going to push around, even though he is a European player who we generally think of as finesse players. So he's just a very unique player, obviously an incredible shooter and scorer. Didn't have his best game, 20.7 rebounds. The biggest thing for Luka in Game 1 to me was 7 turnovers. You got to take better care of the ball. You cannot play a team like Golden State and turn the ball over like that. They're going to take advantage of it, and that's the game to me right there. Everyone else has to step up.
Larry Bird was such a unique. I told you when I was younger, all the games weren't on cable. Right? Like in the 70s, they weren't at all, and then ESPN came, and there was more cable stuff. But it was. I remember going to a Sonics game to watch Bird, and he had one of his rare bad games. I think he scored like 8 or 10. I'd have to look good. I don't remember the exact year, but I remember those Celtic teams were interesting because the Lakers. I always thought it was really fate. Magic in Boston and Bird in Los Angeles would have worked. But when they came out, it was perfect. Magic was perfect for Los Angeles, and Bird, kind of a lunch pail star, was perfect for Boston.
Yeah, I don't know.
They felt like the cities.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have worked. It would have worked
they would have
because
won.
They were two great players.
Right.
But it wouldn't have worked as well as it did. And it certainly wouldn't have... I don't know that we would look at them with the awe and admiration that we do because they just fit into... we talk about it all the time how much cultural fit matters when it comes to especially young players.
There's no question.
You got to be in a space where you're comfortable. Could you imagine winning time with Larry Bird in Los Angeles? That series doesn't happen.
Magic felt... I think one of the reasons Magic is one of the most... Magic Johnson, if he walks into the Staples today, I've been there when he walks in.
Yeah.
the crowd rises.
Of course.
All these, he's all over town. So Magic was not only L.A., Kobe's the same way. Kobe felt like L.A. Shaq felt like L.A.
Right, like there were dynamics that were in place that made that all blossom. Like Larry Bird and Jerry Buss. I don't know if that's a match.
Exactly.
I don't know if that works as well.
Yeah.
So, everything has to kind of happen the way it does for us to look back on history the way that we do. But yeah, I mean, Larry was a very unique player and an all-time great legendary player, but fit perfectly into that system and what Boston is and represents that.
Like
and it also built for the animosity and the rivalry that they have.
It was, Michael, I always thought, because at the time Michael was great, Oprah was becoming the biggest star in TV. Siskel and Ebert, remember that show? I grew up when they were the movie critics. So you had Michael, you had Oprah, you had Siskel, Ebert, and you had the Cubs and the White Sox and the Bears. Chicago, Michael felt perfect for Chicago. He had sort of that Midwest workaholic tough guy, but Chicago, if you go to it, it's really a cool city.
Right.
So, like, Chicago is, a lot of these northern cities, a Seattle, Minneapolis, we don't think of as cool. They're nice cities, but Chicago's got an edge to it. It's kind of cool. There've been a lot of stars there. So Bird felt like Boston, Jordan felt like Chicago, and Magic absolutely felt like LA.
And when you get the star that fits perfectly into that, look at John Morant in Memphis. I mean, he's the perfect star for that city and that team. So Jimbo Fisher fired back at Nick Saban yesterday. It was petty wars in college football, and Nick Saban had a lot to say about Texas A&M's recruiting class and what they did with NIL, and it got heated. And he tried to clarify what he originally said. Here's Saban.
I should have never really singled anybody out. That was a mistake, and I really apologize for that part of it. I really wasn't saying that anybody did anything illegal in using name, image, and likeness. I didn't say that. That was something that was assumed by what I said, which is not really what I meant, nor was it what I said. So there's nothing illegal about doing this. It's the system that allows you to do it, and that's the issue that I have.
There's a lot of different takeaways that we can have from this, and everyone's arguing about NIL and transfer portal and blah, 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 and I'm a little disappointed in Nick Saban. He is the face of college football.
Absolutely.
He has a golden opportunity here to figure out how this is all going to play out and work, and how it can benefit student athletes, not just the college football players, all student athletes, and the sport as a whole. And instead of doing that, he's just complaining about it. I don't want to hear that from Nick Saban. I hold Nick Saban to a higher standard than that. Things are always going to change. You started the segment talking about this. There's people who can adapt to change and people who can't. And everybody's wired differently, and that's fine. You don't have to be someone who adores things changing all the time. Right. Change is hard. It's hard for people who like change. But when you're in a certain space, when you're a Bill Belichick, when you're a Nick Saban, when you're a Phil Jackson, like when you're in a different category of coach or executive, you sort of represent a sport, or you're a face, someone that we immediately think of when we think of a whole sport, which is college football. I think you have a bigger responsibility to look at the change and not pile more gloom and doom onto the situation.
Well, and the other thing is, Joy, is that it's not a coincidence that many college football coaches and basketball coaches' careers have ended pathetically. Bobby Knight was pathetic at the end. Joe Paterno, Woody Hayes punched a player. Why? Because college sports creates these almost dictatorships.
Correct.
The college basketball football coach is the highest paid state employee. There's no pushback. It was a knock for years on Mike Krzyzewski that he could be heavy-handed. So you've seen you don't see this with pro coaches. They don't end pathetically. They get fired.
Right.
But they end because they have a billionaire that controls them. So a pro coach doesn't have power. College football coaches and basketball coaches, Calipari is the most powerful guy in the state. Saban is in Alabama. Woody Hayes was in Ohio. And so when you get accustomed to having power and start losing it, guys unravel very quickly.
This is very obviously about power and leverage, which is the biggest thing that you can have in any business. And that's what the players have now. And if you remember, one of the biggest critiques of Nick Saban as a coach was his failure at the professional level. I don't know that he was a complete failure, but it didn't work. And part of the reason why was he wasn't capable of dealing with professional players.
Yeah.
He wasn't capable of handling grown men who have mortgages and families and kids and make more money than him and telling them what to do in a way that they responded to. So college was perfect for him, and that's why he's dominated in this space. Well, things have changed now. So I'm sure there is kind of this daunting feeling. But if you're the best of the best, it's also your job to see around corners. And you didn't need to see around the corner. It was right there. It was just hanging in a net waiting for the Supreme Court to cut it, and now it's on top of you.
And that's why when he talks about parity, Bama fan will be like, nobody wanted to play home and home with us. Then you go and you buy the games and you say, Wisconsin will go there. And Wisconsin goes, okay, we're going to get beat by you, but you got to pay us some money to do it. Then you do it. Nobody wanted to play USC either. They found a way to get the game scheduled. USC was beaten